Welcome back, gang. It's Deltia from Deltiasgaming.com. And look, Enshrouded dropped another massive patch, patch 6, which really changed a lot of how the weapon mechanics, the drops, and adding new mechanics like gems. And I wanted to come out with a video because I was struggling to find out the best combinations, weapons, how to farm them, and what exactly to do in patch 6. So you're going to want to watch this video for a clear, decisive way to get the best weapon gems and items in the game so you can dominate the latest content. Before we continue with our video, I wanted to tell you about our friends at Eldorado.gg. Tired of grinding for hours just to fall behind in your favorite game? Check out Eldorado.gg, the ultimate online marketplace for gamers with over 200 games supported. We're talking accounts, currency, and boost. Enjoy instant delivery, cheapest currency rates, and a free account, a warranty on every order. All transactions are protected by Eldorado Trade Shield, so you can buy and sell with confidence. I'm partnering with Eldorado to bring you a discount. Use code DELTIA at checkout to save even more on top of these already amazing savings, or check my link in the description below. Thousands of gamers trust Eldorado with glowing reviews on Trustpilot, with verified sellers who actually deliver, secure, fast, and totally hassle-free. So skip the grind. Visit Eldorado.gg, use code DELTIA, and start dominating today. All right, so before we continue, real quick rundown of what's new in patch 6 for Enshrouded. I am shocked. It is actually quite a lot. This is not comprehensive, just so you're aware though. There's going to be new enemies. In fact, a lot of them with new mechanics, so look out for them when you're fighting. There are some really cool ones. One looks like a predator type thing. It's awesome. There's going to be a lot of new material. Now with the new material, unfortunately, some of your old was reworked or needing other material, so you're probably going to have to backtrack to previous zones to get the latest stuff, so be prepared for that. The weapon gem system was added, so you're going to find these gems that you can insert in your weapons. Why this is so important for this video is the current items that you have are not retroactive, so they don't have a gem slot. Thus, you're going to have to farm and get new ones entirely. We'll explain that in detail. The Shroud has been reworked, so it offers more incentives to fight in the Shroud. It offers different enemies, different loot, and so on. So basically what's going to happen now is to get these weapon gems and or items that you're going to need to upgrade the gems, you're going to be spending a lot of the time in the Shroud. So previous passives and or skills you may have avoided because the Shroud wasn't really that impactful, you weren't spending a whole lot of time with, you're going to have to revisit. There's going to be new gear, which I've talked about already, but mainly a earlier level gear, so not as important. There's going to be enemy patrols. There's going to be night temples. These are small little puzzles with okay gear in them. They're surrounded throughout the entire map, and so you can get them done. Again, not that huge impactful, but they add another layer of quest and or things to do on the map. There's going to be dyes tintable armor, and so they added a barber vendor, which is actually really awesome for those who love cosmetics and decorating their character, so expanded that. It is very grindy. The materials needed to get it are time consuming, so expect to grind a lot if you really want to min-max your look of your character. And there's a couple of new spells, so overall massive update. Now let's jump into the weapon gen system. Okay, so step 1 with the weapon gen system, you're not going to have your weapons retroactively have a gem slot. Thus, you will need to farm them all over again. We'll explain how to do that at the end game in detail. So that is unfortunate. You're going to have to do this all over again, and they made some of the currency requirements brutal, so you will have to grind to min-max the individual weapons that you want. Now, the gem system. Once you discover a weapon that has a gem slot, you'll obviously need a gem to put in there. To do this, you're going to have to discover something called a gem forge. A gem forge will be introduced to you as part of the introduction quest. They are all over. You do not need to go to a high level one. And from what I understand, playing this for hours and hours, you cannot craft this in your individual home, which is very odd. What I did is put a camp or a home right outside of one to the north where it used to be a treasure chest. So that way I could quickly access it. It is in the Shroud, So the best strategy here is to find one that you like, put an individual altar so you can fast travel there, craft your stuff, and move out. Why that's important is you're going to need to have the materials on your person in order to upgrade and or craft these. So it is imperative to not walk around with tons of them in case you die. Okay, so you need a weapon with the gem slot. You need a gem forge thing, and you need a gem. The very first gem you're going to get introduced to is Gem of Bleeding. It's going to debuff, do some cutting damage per second. I think there's 8, 9, or 10 different gems to find. The issue with the gems is this. The low level ones aren't necessarily that bad. So this Gem of Bleeding that you're going to get right away is a level 7. These individual gems can be upgraded all the way to level 35. How you get the upgrades for the gems is by going to these things called shroud layers. The quest will introduce you to various shroud layers. It has a new icon. I guess it looks like a goofy little fungus. When you go into this goofy little fungus looking thing called a shroud layer, you're going to find a new material that will allow you to upgrade your individual gems. It's going to be called Archaic, I think, Essence. And they're going to come in a variety of different levels. So all this means is when you get a lower level gem, it doesn't mean that it sucks. In fact, you'll probably want to upgrade each different type of gem to max level 35, if not multiple ones, because you can slot them on individual weapons for individual ones. So for instance, Gem of Cold Exposure has a minus 30% move speed. That sucks. But it also has physical resistance, bonus magical resistance, and ice explosion damage. So it's perfect for a tank. So you would put this on a sword or a sword and shield tank build, but you would not want to use this on a ranger, barbarian, and so on. Another one like Gem of Agility, stamina on hit, additional cutting weapon damage. So this is perfect for like a dagger if you're wanting to get stamina back and you have a cutting damage type dagger, perfect for this. So what I'd recommend doing is once you get the individual gems, level them all up to max level regardless of your individual playstyle if you have the extra material. So in summary, you're going to have to get new weapons, you're going to have to get the gem slockets, and you're going to have to get the individual materials to upgrade them. So Deltia, where do you get the individual gems? Well, I'm glad you asked. So what I'd recommend doing is going to the site enshrouded.wiki.gg and looking for gems. It's going to tell you every specific gem and then where it falls in general. So the gems will drop from individual monsters within individual zones. Why this is important is even a low level zone might be the very specific thing you want to get. So don't think that you need to just go to endgame level zone and farm monsters. If you do this, you're going to get the cold one repeatedly like I did over and over and over, and you're not playing a tank, it will not do much for you. So you're going to be going to the summit for the cold one. You're going to be going to Kindle Waste. You're going to be going to Nomad. You're going to be going just all over trying to get these individual gems by discovering them. The best way to discover them is just killing monsters. I found that if you go inside of the shroud layers, usually the very last boss in there automatically gives you a gem from the zone. So what I would do is bounce around from zone to zone, discovering the shrouded layers, going and clearing them out. Also, the one-handed shield guys with there sometimes drop these individual gems. There are a little bulb, or I don't even know how to say this, but it constantly respawns these one-handed shield guys. So what I did is I just let it constantly respawn them, killing them over and over. And after 4 or 5, I eventually got the individual gem in that individual layer and could move on. So that's how you get the gems. I would go to the shroud layers and look for individual monsters, bosses, and the wiki to help you find to get the actual one that you want. Then go to get the material, upgrade that, and then re-farm weapons to be able to slot it to have the best mid-max items. The monsters will be a little bit more difficult. I think they did this because the gems add a lot of utility to your build. There's one that I recommend getting where it allows you to fly around and then smash down on the ground and do some damage. Gem of Meteoric Impact. So some fun thing you can do is just get a rando weapon you're probably not going to use, slot it on your bar, put this in your weapon, max out the gem, and then when you're flying, boom, you do some free damage. When you land, swap, and you're good to go. Just make sure that you're flying for a specific amount of time, or you'll see a little glow and the buff will indicate that it's ready to fire off in the top left. Cool little gem. So that brings us to weapon farming. Now, they, in my opinion, after doing this for hours and hours and hours, really reduced the drop rate of chest and getting gold items, specifically with the gem socket. So before I was getting maybe every other one was a gold. Now it seems like 1 in every 6, 7, 8 chests that are gold chests are dropping gold quality with a gem socket. So here are the updated gold chests that you can go farm. Now, what I'd recommend doing, looking at this map picture, is putting a home right by the gem forge, and then putting a home to the west where there are essentially about 4 chest locations. And then you can do a couple up north as well, especially by the shroud layer. You're going to need to go there a lot. Okay, so what I do when I log in, number one is you don't want to log in right by a chest because it will screw up the respawn. So I head from the Howling Peak north and I go to the hollows that isn't fully fleshed out. You can just jump and fly back in there and get the chest and on, or kill a bunch of the critters and get a lot of material. This is where I start in general. And then once I get the easy one here, I will go to the east. There is one inside of the shroud layer all the way north, but I'm not going to mess with that one. There is one in the Balefire Stronghold, Ironheart. Now, the issue with this one is you have to jump, and it's kind of on the sides. It's not on the top where the boss is, and the boss doesn't really drop anything useful. So you jump down, you fly on the side, and you can get a hold of this one pretty easy. That's 2 straight away, very easy. So once we're done with those 2, what I do is I go out west. Now, lugging out west the very first time will take you a lot of time to get here. But once you do, it's pretty simple. So park a flame altar in this location outside the hidden tomb entry. There are actually 2 gold chests inside of here and then 1 silver. So you're going to run in, go get that one. And then you're going to come back out where you put the flame altar. You're going to fly around a little bit east and then go back north. And you're going to have to dig a little bit to get this one. Then you have 2 other ones you can get. So usually I go back to the flame altar, head down south. It's another diggy kind of one, a little bit hard to get a hold of. I get that. I go back to the flame altar. I fly north and west, and then you get another one that's marked, and that would give you a bunch of chests. Now from here, what I do is I go back to my home. I park all my material, log out, wait a little bit, log back in, rinse and repeat. So after 2-3 hours of doing this, yes, it's a bit of a grind. You should be able to get at least 2 to 3 weapons that are gold, max quality, with a gem socket in them. They might not be the individual one you want, like a perfect wand or a dagger or something like that, but it gives you the concept of getting max level items. Now, if you're like Deltia, I'm not at max level, what I would do is mark the map with individual chest markers and then do the exact same trick whatever zone you're in. As you find gold chests, mark them with a chest icon, find a little loop, and start farming these puppies. So another thing to note is they radically increase the cost of runes. This is the material you're going to need to upgrade the individual weapons. In fact, they made something called legendary runes. You're going to be able to gather this just by killing critters. And also, if you run out, come to the blacksmith resource tab and you can create it with runes. So if you're like me, just deconning runes, not really fussing with them, expect to blow through them very, very quickly to max out legendary weapons. Don't use these liberally. Conserve them for your individual weapon because you will blow through them pretty quick with this farming method. So with that, gang, get out there, farm the individual gems. We'll try to update builds for these. This is a big new addition. Really shocked to keep adding all this cool content in patch 6. It's amazing, and I appreciate you watching this video.